lets you know that you've really got something big happening.
The White House invited the national organizers of Earth Day to drop by for a chat. They refused. Christopher Demuth, the president's 23-year-old assistant for environmental affairs, claims Dennis Hayes, the national coordinator of Earth Day.
Well, it seems that Earth Day got started
anti-Nixon publicity stance
in the 70s,
ensuring that the observance was truly nonpartisan.
but it was happening in part in the 60s.
I think Nixon, who by all accounts...
It's been happening ever since the planet's been created. Earth Day.
Political chess.
We'll try to play all cameras on.
Earth Day. Earth Day.
I have sent to the Congress today a sweeping set of proposals to clean up our nation's air and water. This is the most far-reaching and comprehensive message on conservation and restoration of our natural resources ever submitted to the Congress by a President of the United States. We are taking these actions not in some distant future, but now, because we know that it is now or never.
I began Earth Day with a sunrise ceremony in Washington, D.C. Then I flew up to New York. Mayor Lindsay had shut down Fifth Avenue and basically filled it all up. The fact that we managed to have our largest event in what was then the center of all media coverage was advantageous.
Earth Day demonstrations began in practically every city and town in the United States this morning, the first massive nationwide protest against the pollution of the environment. In Washington, there was an awesome Earth Day warning from a government scientist. Dr. J. Murray Mitchell said pollution and overpollution, unless checked, could so warm the Earth in 200 years as to create a greenhouse effect, melting the Arctic ice cap and flooding vast areas of the world.
Nationally, Earth Day was the largest demonstration ever in American history. Some events had 500,000 people in them, and we had an estimated 20 million across the country.
Some quarters saw more than coincidence in the fact that Earth Day occurred on the 100th anniversary of the birth of Lenin, the father of Soviet communism. The Comptroller General of Georgia, James Bentley, sent out $1,600 worth of telegrams warning that Earth Day might be a communist plot.
There were certainly people who had their pet causes. Some pounded vehicles apart with sledgehammers as a protest against the internal combustion engine. Others wore gas masks to protest air pollution. But also there was an almost celebratory thing, as though suddenly we were awakening to a new set of opportunities.
They are talking about emission control devices on automobiles, while we are talking about bans on automobiles. We are challenging the ethics of a society that with only 6% of the world's population accounts for more than half of its utilization of resources. Our country is stealing from the poorer countries of the world and from generations as yet unborn.
To me, Earth Day was life-changing. There were, around the country, millions of people engaging in some act of caring for the Earth. I realized that there was a massive group of people who cared very deeply about the Earth, and if organized, could be a viable political movement. At that point, I ceased to be an anti-war activist and became an environmentalist.
I've been in 3 of these gatherings today. And let me say this to you, that you can't stand in front of a group like this without feeling the power which can flow from it. So what we must do is to make every day Earth Day.
It was from Washington that 25-year-old Dennis Hayes started to organize this nationwide thing, and it is here he has returned tonight to say that this thing is now a movement, and like Vietnam, an anti-establishment movement.
We are systematically destroying our land, our streams, and our seas. We follow
It was a huge, high adrenaline effort that, in the end, genuinely changed things. Before there were people that opposed freeways, there were people that opposed clear-cutting or people worried about pesticides. They didn't think of themselves as having anything in common. After Earth Day, they were all part of an environmental movement.
Well, now you look at the trash and you see it's happening.
Some people
everywhere.
have a deep, abiding respect for the natural beauty that was once this country. And some people don't. People start pollution. People can stop it.
Immediately after Earth Day, we chose to get involved in something that we really hadn't paid any attention to before Earth Day: organized formal politics, elections. We came up with a campaign called the Dirty Dozen that targeted 12 members of Congress with terrible environmental records.
The Dirty Dozen are E. Ross Adair of Indiana, William Ayers of Ohio, William Calgar of Kentucky, David Dennis of Indiana, George Fallon of Maryland, John Kyle of Iowa, Earl Landgrave of Indiana, Odin Langen of Minnesota, Byron Rogers of Colorado, Henry Schatterberg of Wisconsin, Lawrence Wynn of Kansas, and Roger Zion of Indiana.
Well, you gotta find a
members
way
of the Dirty Dozen,
now
including the chairman of the House Public Works
politically
Committee, a guy named George
to
Fallon
use
out of
the
Baltimore,
system,
who
use
was
the
funding all
system
kinds
to
of environmental monsters.
ecologically.
People were saying, you took out George Fallon? I mean, he was clearly one of the 3 or 4 most powerful members of Congress.
To clean up pollution.
And when Congress reconvened in January, everybody said,
So
I'm now an
it's not
environmentalist. I mean,
abuse. We
there was a
don't
force
wanna
out there that had taken out
abuse
7
the
incumbents.
We want to live on
propose the
Earth in
establishment of a
harmony.
joint House
We
Senate
don't want
Committee
to
on the
abuse
Environment
the
to expand the congressional capacity to deal with environmental frightening variety of hazards and environmental offenses over which we have had little, up to this time, a little in the way of control.
President Nixon sent this report to Congress today, an assessment of the nation's environmental problems and ideas on how to solve them. He sounded the familiar warning of ecological disaster, but counseled against panic or hysteria.
In the next 4 years, 71 through 74, we passed clean water, clean air, endangered species, estuarine protection, coastal zone protection, marine mammal protection. And a lot of that went through my little subcommittee.
I think President Nixon was looking forward to the next election. Well, was he going to veto this Clean Air, Clean Water bill? No. He signed it with a flourish. And then proposed the creation of what is now still the Environmental Protection Agency to enforce these pollution laws. We got environmental impact statements. You had to look at the downside as well as the upside of any technological project. That was revolutionary because it gave people the power to challenge unlimited technological growth.